When trying to win any argument, conversation, or debate, there are certain things that we have to do to come out the winner. The person who seems to win any conversation tends to have three qualities which are very important. And surprisingly, reason, factual correctness is not one of those criteria. The three things that are needed are one, brevity, two, emotion, and three, humor as quips or sarcasm. So let's uncover one of them one by one. The brevity, as Shakespeare has said, brevity is the soul of wit. So whenever you are saying something, make sure that you are not going into long monologues. Keep it short and sweet because people's attention span is very limited. So whatever you are saying, you have to say in a short time frame. Also, if you remember, the 6 levels of learning are learn, understand, apply, compare, concise, create. So the fifth one, which is concise, summarize, critical analysis, is what is a very distilled high level of learning. And that is why when you're able to communicate a complex view into few short words, you have understood it extremely well. Hence you are the winner. So it is a very cerebral, natural way of winning the conversation by putting a lot of words into few words. So always try to speak less in a conversation. It is also a psychological fact where you know that a person in 48 laws of power, I think Robert Greene has also mentioned that whenever you are speaking less, you are appearing more powerful. So it in general is a good habit to speak less. You give people less fodder to fight with you that, okay, in the past you had said this. So it shows that you are in control of your emotions, you are in control of the conversation, and hence always try to speak less. And in the process of speaking less, you have to learn to compare and contrast, to understand the concept, and to put it in few simple words. Now, the word simple is very critical here. Whenever you have a concept, even in stock market, we say if you cannot explain why you are buying a company to a 6-year-old with a crayon, you have failed. So you have to be able to convert complex structures into simple sentences, and everything should be made simple but not simpler. So you have to know what level can you bring it down or make simple to be appreciated by the crowd and your opponent, adversary. So keep it simple, keep it short, and to understand it, you have to have a very strong research foundation. You must have totally understood the concept and thought about it again and again, and then only you will be able to simplify a complex argument that you are having. So brevity, or keeping it short, keeping it simple, speaking less in the whole conversation is the number one thing. The number two thing is emotions. So you have to be able to have a understanding of the prevailing sentiment. What is the sentiment in the opponent, but more so, what is the sentiment of a neutral person, a third person who is observing the conversation? What would a third neutral person say if they heard this conversation? And it might take just a little bit. It might be a 51-49 conversation where one person is 51% right, the other is only 49% right. But getting that 1% delta is the critical thing to win the argument, because all people remember is that you won and the other person lost. Nobody remembers to what extent was the opponent wrong when you were right. So when you are able to connect with the prevailing sentiment, and you can do it by tapping into the anger of the crowd, you can do it by tapping into the despair, frustration of the neutral view, and you can also exaggerate the weaknesses that the opponent has in terms of how they are presenting their flawed view. So if you can exaggerate their flaws, and one of the ways that it can be done is by assigning some names. You will see Donald Trump use some names for his adversary, like Crooked Hillary. So he will just make fun of his adversary by coming up with names, and then he will retire some of those names as they become his friends or in his own party. So this is important, how you are assigning blame to another individual and making it repetitious. Keep repeating the same concept again and again. A lie told 1,000 times becomes the truth, sadly. So if you keep using the same frame of thought again and again, and with quips and humor, the third point, you will become very effective. So first, I told you, try to speak less. Second, I told you, try to appeal to the prevailing sentiment that the crowd has. And lastly, now let me come to the third point, which is quips, jabs of humor and sarcasm. Whenever the other individual is talking, you interrupt their train of thought, because remember, they are also trying to do the same thing. They are trying to use emotion to win the conversation, and they might go on long tirades, and nobody likes long tirades. So what you can do is break their chain of speech, break their train of thought using these sharp jabs of quips, humor. So you say something that will make fun of them, or you say something that is extremely funny, but it is very limited. Brevity is the soul of wit. So if you do that, people start laughing, and humor is extremely attractive. Now, this will require some level of genius to be breaking someone's conversation with small quips. But if you can do that on a regular basis, making it extremely annoying, this is a psychological hack that just helps you win the argument. You don't need to have the best facts in your favor. You don't need to have the highest level of logics, tangible facts, deductive reasoning. None of that is required. All you need is humor. And humor is extremely attractive, phenomenal, cerebral thing, and it is extremely honored in the human society, because humor is something which is extremely creative, and it is at the sixth level of understanding of learning that we talked about. So my friends, in short, to win any conversation in life with your spouse, with your children, with your in your corporate job world, with your boss, or even in a simple debate that you are engaging in, it's very important to know that the person who speaks less wins. Try to speak like 40% of the whole conversation, or even less, but let the other person go into tirades. It's your opinion, that's your time to break their chain of thought with some quips, but let them speak. Let it appear that they're not letting you speak, but when you speak, you are giving out distilled information. You are appealing to the prevailing sentiment of the neutral observer, the prevailing sentiment that is bubbling up in the air. And lastly, use humor, use quips, use jabs of sarcasm to break the conversation that the other individual is engaging in, and just to lighten the mood, because that shows you have no chips on your shoulder, you are the winner, and you speak less to show that you are in control and you are in complete control of the conversation. Hope you like this video. Please feel free to leave your comments. Jai Shri Ram.